Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, me immortalites. We've got Meanderings here, 25th of June, 2023. We are outdoors. We've got one on this side of the mic.
Kyron here.
And
Yo.
Meanderings is a chance for us to have open conversations, wide-ranging conversations in about anything that we want to. Usually it's the things that we're finding of interest over the past week, things that we are learning upon, etc. I think for me, I have no notes, although one thing off the top of my mind that
I've got a couple.
I wanted to call out was following on from my last call out last week on the Duolingo saga, which is where they got me. They got me
2 weeks ago, to be exact.
2 weeks ago, where they got me in terms of the paying for the annual subscription. Now, I thought we're looking ahead for a fortnight now that I would be using it probably a lot more. I actually have a particular goal this month where I was 3 times. I've got to do 3 classes of Duolingo before a workout. I can already call you out right now, and we're going to do monthly review anyways in a not too distant future.
Couple of days.
But didn't meet that at all. I'm barely even doing 1 a day realistic. I'm like barely meeting it ends meet. And I went, damn, I don't know if even getting Super Duolingo was helpful at all. It was useful. I almost go backwards. I'm like, now that I know I can't lose my hearts and it's just easily available, it's almost made me draw away. Now, another aspect of it is, Mum, thank you very much. She got me a French book, a very old, very, very old French book that is intended to be a
Is it In
practice
Search
book.
of Lost Time?
No. So it's not an actual. So it's not an actual.
Do you know how
book.
big that book is?
No, but it's not.
In
It's not an
Search
actual.
of Lost Time is like
huge.
It's
Oh,
massive.
fuck that! I'm not gonna read that. So it's a kind of
Volumes.
like dialogue / small, tiny little chapters, all in French, with the very bottom a little bit of an example of some of the words from English to French. I didn't check exactly what year it was, but I'm going to say it's like a 1960s book. What I was really happy about is, now, granted, I've only read the first lesson, and I'm not entirely sure whether all the lessons progressively get harder or what have you, but at least the first page, I was able to read entirely and had to refer to 4 or 5 words to understand what they were being like. Kind of how you used to do a little while ago with reading Spanish books, taking note of sort of the words that you don't want to getting it. And I went, that's kind of cool. I really enjoy that. So I can, even though I'm not doing as much Duolingo as I thought I would be right now, even with the Super, I went, damn, I'm probably at the stage now that I can read simple, very simple French books. To give you an idea, this particular chapter or little lesson was all about, these 2 kids who went to someone uncle's house and they were playing in the farm, and it was beautiful open gardens, and where they went to go see, and then they went over a bridge and they found this gun. I was like, what? Again, weird words for me were like, oh, I didn't know gun was this. I'd like never learned this with Duolingo. So Duolingo, where's gun in there? So it's items like that. I went, okay, this is cool. But I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed that. And I feel like I've always been a stickler for, hey, no, I'm going to finish Duolingo. That's going to be my primary source. I'm not going to go and read another book, even though maybe I can. Nah, I'm going to stick to my guns with Duolingo. Reading that 1 page made me go, hey, maybe I'm okay with just doing a single Duolingo lesson, on a daily basis to keep new words coming. But now maybe this book approach is the right one. And I don't think I've ever really thought of that before until reading that particular book. So Thank you, Mum, for getting that one. So you might find me maybe not getting such thick books like that, but maybe some more simpler books to actually go and read.
I think that's a step of getting into beginner intermediate, to be honest.
Okay.
It's the branching away from the strict formal thing and going into your own style and realizing, okay, what actually is the way that I learn? How do I learn better? Because Duolingo is great for the basics, but you're going to struggle to really understand things, the nuances and all the etc. words that German or French has, or the way that people say it. I don't think I ever saw, and I doubt you will see in Duolingo, para, 4 in Spanish. A lot of people just shorten it to pa, and I doubt you're going to see that in Duolingo. I very much doubt that. So
yeah, one of the other things, obviously, I do see the Spanish Duolingo through my partner, and often she'll ask me again, how do you say money? And I'll say, well, there's different ways, dinero, plata, other ways, and it ended up being wrong. In fact, I believe that they wanted us to say efectivo, And I was like, what? No,
Yeah,
you wouldn't say
effectively.
that. And I
Yeah,
went,
I've used
okay.
that. I've used that tons.
Yeah, but I went, you'd say it in some of these circumstances. You would maybe use it more in Spain. But I went, nah, most generally you'd say plata, dinero, other ways. And I went, yeah, okay, there's obviously going to be restraints to the Duolingo specifics. One thing I recently learned as well is that the sign language, Auslan, here in Australia, but this applies, broadly as well, has its own very particular niche ways of doing it, articulating, depending on the state, depending on the, minutiae of how people live. In fact, even to the individual and how they change it. So, even if you learned TAFE structured sign language, you might just be a piece of shit knowledge of sign language by that comparison, because you just have all the very specificity to know. So, yeah, it made me more aware of the limitations of Duolingo, which made me feel a bit better of, okay, maybe I shouldn't be putting such an emphasis on Duolingo as per se maybe other areas. Although I heard that you've gone back onto Duolingo. Is this correct?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because my partner she's got you on Duolingo, and it said, wow, welcome back, Karen. He's started back up. So either someone's stolen your account.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it actually showed that you started getting points again on Duolingo.
Oh, that's not right.
So
no, that's not right at all.
I don't know. This is
I'm trying to even think.
Karen's twin. And this is recently. I'm talking like days ago.
Yeah,
days ago.
No,
okay, we'll have to talk about
right.
this offline. I'll have to check my sources here for this detail. So we'll see.
I'd actually really like to know what I sound like when I speak Spanish, because I met this Colombian girl recently, was chatting with her, and just in the course of conversation I was saying a couple of things, and I, for example, said chavo, teenagers. I just thought that's how it was. That was one of those words which I thought was just general across Spanish, or Latin Spanish at least. And she was saying, no, that's not how you say it. I would never use that word.
Pronunciation or the actual word?
No, the actual word itself.
I would agree with her. Like, I was like, that's not really said that often.
Yeah.
Then again, I don't know.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
But when you said chavo, I was like, well, I've heard of it, but nah, you wouldn't really say that.
That's how I've always said teenager.
What did she say it was?
I can't even remember. It was another word for much more closer to like adolescente or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was
because I was going to say it very much depends on the viewpoint as well of the individual saying. Like a really old person might say like esos jovencitos, something like that. Yeah. The young ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and so my Spanish is just riddled with this. I sometimes will say neta instead of verdad, and it's just because that's how I learned. I just picked up words in every country that I was at, and I kind of would like to see an English equivalent of that. Someone who has picked up, American English, UK English, Australian English, Kiwi English, and just the various way that they would use words where instead of saying flip-flops, they'd say thongs, but then in another context, they would say petrol instead of gas. And I would really like to just know what I sound like, because it's very hard to objectively look at my own speech and go, yeah, okay, am I kind of mechanical? Do I say these words this way? Does that...
Well, I think 2 points to that, though. One, you are mechanical. But two, it's a little bit different, and maybe it isn't, but that's because we are English speakers in the sense that, if someone says petrol, fuel, gas, you can kind of assert what all of them are.
Yeah, it's not
although gas in particular, you're like, oh, are you talking like, for a ute gas, or are you talking like fuel, petrol, unleaded? Okay, so that's a little bit of a difference. However, from teenagers, that was like a word that's like, oh no, that's not it at all. But is it that it's not it at all because kind of like gas and petrol, or is it because you're saying like gas and dog? That sort of difference. Yeah. It's like, oh, what the hell is that? What are you talking about? So maybe, but maybe I'm coming up from a perspective that I know English, and so that's not as much of a difficulty. But perhaps for someone who's not, who would have those variants, to be like, no, what the hell does this mean? It's always been called this word.
Well, I think definitely for myself at least, Riz, that word, I kind of get what it is, but I wouldn't be able to explain it that well. I would use it wrong if I tried to use it, and that was kind of probably one of the first times where I've gone like, oh, I'm past the generation that's using this a lot. So
yeah, for sure. We're definitely here at the Meanderings Juan and I. We've extended past a portion of being so up to date with the lingo of the world, of the evolving word, and we're much more on the existing and the historical nature of words, I think.
I was creating this clip today. It was you talking about cock punch, and you kind of finished it off your sentence by, oh man, it's just really, really cool. And I went, man, I bet if I include that bit, people would just look at that and go, "Look at this old guy talking about this thing that he thinks is cool."
True, maybe.
It was
Actually, speaking of comments,
oh god,
I have been enjoying honestly in a deep sense how much Karen and his clips have been getting.
Well, it's not me
commentary.
actually. It's Pete. It's Pete's clips.
And I had I'm not gonna name the source, but someone we got a couple of people who were like, they dislike Pete enough they were like, I don't think you should ever have him on the podcast ever
Fuck
again.
them. Pete's
so
awesome.
I was like, damn. I feel like some of Pete's comments, he's got strong views.
He's a shooter.
He's a strong viewpoint individual. He definitely hasn't got the nuance in between, like, oh, I could see it the other way. No, he calls it as it is, which I like that. That's a good way to have.
He was talking about how his dad uses language, this kind of persuasive language, even though he might not be correct. Pete's very much the same. I'd agree. He kind of shoots it out, and he, just judging from the backstory of him, he's kind of always been like that. It's kind of, the little bit of it's like a bully, but not really a bully. He's teasing things, putting his cologne up to the cat. What's it going to do? Is it going to react? That sort of deal. So, no, I really like Pete, though. He's really cool. There's a reason he's been on the podcast more than anyone else.
Yeah, I like Pete as an individual and the way he communicates. But I think, and again, this goes to, it's very different as having an individual that you're day-to-day having a conversation versus once that you have a conversation.
Correct. I don't know him that well.
He would strike me as someone that I'm about, I don't know if I could have I don't know if I could have a continuous relation with someone having that much of a strong opinion.
Yeah.
Because then...
Come on, Juan. Strong opinions held loosely?
Yeah, but I don't think he's held them loosely at all. That's the thing. Yeah, I don't think he holds them loosely. So I go, I don't know if I could have conversations amongst the nuance. Then it made me reflect. I'm like, sometimes I can be like that as well. So maybe it's because it's too similar to me. So I'm not sure. But anyways, I did hear quite a few people be sympathetic for us not having Pete ever on again.
Okay.
However, I do enjoy the amount of conversation that's allowed. So, case in point, one of the latest reels that Karen has put together is around Elon Musk. Now, I disagree with Pete here because, the way that he presented it, I went, you can tell he hasn't actually looked into the detail of Elon Musk himself. I know people who went to school with him. I've read biographies around him. I hold mixed opinions about it. I could give you enough information probably on both ends. But I love seeing just the amount of commentary that was coming through on that particular clip. Both from people who were like, what an idiot, this is horrible, don't even know how to articulate, to people being like, yes, I agree. And I went, I like the amount of commentary that's come out from such a polarising view, which is what happens, right? That's what generally happens.
This is a reflection point, and we're going to jump back onto your...
Cock punch, really, really good one?
No, Jesus. Nice.
Well, I would have gone straight to the camera too.
Yeah, I think it would have.
Hey.
Brilliant. Just getting attacked by pigeons here outside.
Good.
No, I wanted to get back onto...
Still say cock punch.
Yeah, the birds are after you. Yeah. I wanted to get back onto... I've got to get this out before I forget. Got to get back onto why you and Pete are kind of similar and maybe a superpower or not. But onto the clip section. This is where I'm going to have to be rather hypocritical compared to young Kyron from 2 years ago, where it's like, I'll respond to every comment. Now that we're getting a fair few comments, and they're ones where it's...
And let's just set that. 2 years ago, we were probably getting, across all of our profiles and the like, maybe 3 comments a week. If that. Nowadays, across all of the profiles, I'm going to say it's probably like 20 or 30 comments a week.
Yeah.
Maybe more. Yeah. So, it's a 10-time multiplier.
Yeah. This is where it's like, okay, well, I'm creating my own problem here, so I'm very much aware of that, and this will be a talking point for the next couple of months. But it's very much, okay, well, I put out something that is somewhat polarizing, maybe. It is Pete coming out with very strong views and saying things. It's actually... I don't think any of my individual ones, when I put them up, it's just people making fun of my Chuck's cloth beanie. That's all that happens from them. It's because my views aren't really that strong, and I don't state them super. The
only time that it does happen is with your book reviews or book review clips. That's probably the only time.
And when I said Gorillaz as well, that was the only. I was talking about something that I thought was subjective.
Sorry, can I just jump in? Unfortunately, to that, because you said Gorillaz, I re-listened to the Gorillaz song.
Okay.
I must tell you, which one? One of the new ones?
So there was New Gold with Tame Impala. There was the The one I was really enjoying, which was
Cracker
called
Island.
Cracker Island. Yeah.
I just got to say this. I'm so sorry that I interrupted Karen, but I must cut this out. I normally listen to music, and when it first comes out, I go, this is shit.
Yeah.
I re-listened to it the other day, and usually, what would happen is I'll actually listen to it much later, like years later, and I go,
yeah,
okay,
maybe there's something there.
Maybe there's something there. So I re-listened to Gorillaz' Cracker Island, and I've got to apologise to all the people's ears who listen to that fucking shit song because it was such a piece of shit again. And I went, man, goddamn Karen, this
man, it's such a good bass riff.
Nah, I hate it. So anyways, back to the continuation.
So the clips. I totally realized, okay, I'm creating maybe something that's polarizing, not really intentionally, to be honest. I have no idea which clips will kick off. And here's a fun one for you. The ones that I really enjoy, the one where I'm like, I use this service called Spanish Dict, not SpanishDict.com, don't go there. That one, and then you laugh. Mm-hmm. I think that's like the perfect clip. It's positive, it's funny, and...
fell flat on its face.
Well, it got actually a lot of people viewing it, but no one comments on it.
Sure.
And so this is where it's like, okay, well, I actually would prefer people see that and not comment on it, rather than I'm making people angry by posting something. So I'm very much like, I can see this is where the people get sucked into chasing the views, chasing the things, and you become more polarized, you say more crazy shit, and then next thing you know, you're, I don't know, dancing on top of cars and, attending. I think a good example of this is actually Diego Cuello, who I had on the podcast, and I had him on because he got kicked off. Mm-hmm. He got banned by the Australian government from podcasting for a period, which I thought was crazy. I didn't even know there was laws that could enable the government to say, no, you aren't allowed to post on these certain places, not regardless of the content. I was going to bring this up in the censorship episode we had, but we just went on to other things. That's one where I think he was like us. He was kind of grinding away. He was doing funny things. He was talking about MMA and he had his very small niches. And then he got onto the politics, and man, his channel blew up, and I could see how he changed. Now, he'll probably say, "This is the way I wanted to go. This is, I'm just kind of getting recognition for the good stuff I'm creating." That's cool as well. He also apparently punched a police horse in the face at the COVID protests. So, was that partly driven due to
maybe
and he was jumping on top of buildings and all sorts of...
On top of buildings?
He was on top of a one-story or a shipping container, I remember seeing a video of him in front of the protest. This is the ones in Melbourne. Gotcha. I might have said Canberra. Melbourne, the Melbourne COVID protests, some of the massive ones. So, I don't know. I don't want to punch a police horse in the face. I don't want to make people angry, and I don't want to deal with negative comments, to be honest. So I'm kind of retracting my statement of the past that I'll respond to everything. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I would retract it as well in terms of replying to everything, especially if it's a non-plus comment or nothing's going to lead from it. But I mean, not that I disagree with it.
Thoughtful ones. I was
going to say I kind of appreciate the real extreme views sometimes. That I do appreciate, as long as they're coming from a semi-logical, semi-rational point of view. So again, that clip around the Elon Musk conversations, there was one or two of the comments which were rational and in the negative sense of this clip. Hey, this person's an idiot because you're not looking into this. Okay, that's cool. Good. There's some information here. Like that's at least for most humans. I'd go, that's probably a good thing in terms of knowing where you fucked up, knowing where you might be wrong, knowing where you don't have the details. Other comments though, where it's like, hey, this is stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
There's just, it's enough malintent without any constructive information that you go, that's kind of crap. Here's another example. Beanie. I got a comment on one of the YouTube clips. I believe it was a clip, not the video, where it was why is this guy wearing that beanie?
Yeah, when it's cold out. When it's warm outside.
When it's warm out. I kind of replied, like, hey, we're in Australia. It's cold out. And he went, oh, okay, cool. Noted. That's it. And I'm not gonna take like no malintent. That's just whatever. That kind of detail didn't come from any hard place. But if it's coming from a real, neglectful, idiotic, not really improving anything of what I would say like the mere mortal lines in the culture, well, no, you're not going to get a response. And I'm not as extreme as, say, a Tim Ferriss, where you'd ban people and stop commenting. But I wouldn't put it past me the one day that if there was enough of a community that we would build, and I could see myself in future years if I'm putting a lot more effort into the podcast and into I wouldn't call it the podcast, just the Mere Mortals as an entity, as a group, and I'm doing things with different people via groups or doing other services. I could absolutely see myself being like, hey, if you do act like an idiot, if you're going to comment like this, especially when you're either paying for it as a service or something else where it's more, I'm putting in a lot more effort to do this. Yeah, you're not participating. Like, that is my own. Would you call it being censored? Maybe, I don't know. But I would definitely be like, nah, I own this, so I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. Yeah. And if you're going to perform like this, well, it's not going to be supportive to the wider, community that we're trying to build. So
I'm more
I don't
a fan
disagree.
of the muting rather than blocking, to be honest. But
the muting rather than blocking. Yeah, that could be good as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, I've seen a lot of comments and clips, and I go, keep it up, folks. Keep it coming. But if you are putting out some true hate out there, you're probably not going to get a reply from us anymore.
Why not bring the
you're
ban
not
hammer?
Yeah, well, no, I'm not going to bring the ban hammer. You're not going to get a reply. You're going to be ignored, in essence.
Yeah.
Now, to the example, I want to make sure we don't miss this. So you're saying me and Pete have the similarity that might be a superpower.
So it was more just, it was talking about, I was watching the Tim Ferriss and Kevin Kelly podcast that they did recently. Kevin Kelly's a fascinating guy. It's really, really worth checking out. And one of the things about Tim Ferriss, he does have good questions, great questions, in fact. And they're not always fantastic, but sometimes he just gets ones absolutely right, which I think are critical. So the one was something that is right in front of us but hard to recognize. So a question for you. Mm-hmm. What's something easy for me, as in for me, Kyron, that is harder for everyone else, but it's something that I kind of just excel at? It's almost like what's easy for me, but not. Oh God, one's smiling deviously, so it can't be good. But I'll give you a little bit of time to reflect on that, to decide if you want to say whatever you're going to say. One of the things I think that's easier for you, that's harder for everyone else, is your ability to brush things off. I don't think I've ever really seen you dwell on anything. I've certainly seen you get pissed off at things, angry, but it's kind of that dwelling aspect. I don't think I've ever seen that. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, if this is like internal one and it's just stuff I don't see, or it's you just don't voice. Maybe it's your ability to not voice complaints.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of because I definitely, I'll give you an example. Yesterday we were moving, helping someone else move house, and there was a container that was full of food, and the box wasn't properly structured because it was properly taped up. So I picked it up and I was carrying it over. All these bottles, heavy bottles, fell right on my toe. I was wearing socks, dude, and it smashed my little toe, right? And I went, oh man, I was so pissed off. I was so annoyed at the box, annoyed at the food. I wanted to throw the food away.
Who taped up the box?
It wasn't me. So it wasn't my fault.
So it was someone else.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
Maybe I dwelled on it for 3 minutes. So I dwelled on it for 3 minutes. It made me annoyed for 3 minutes. I was annoyed at the food. And then it carried on, I think 3 minutes later. So I would say that I do dwell on things, but maybe for a short period.
No, 3 minutes is nothing. I'm talking about someone did something to you. A friend of mine was at the gym, wanted to use a piece of equipment. There was a person there who was kind of using it, and they were being rude, and he was dwelling on it. He dwelled on it for the next hour and was still bringing it up. And I would say there's a high likelihood that he will bring that up, if not to me, someone else in the next week. Maybe in a month's time, it's kind of going away. But
no. So I would say my dwelling time is very short. It is very brief.
I think it's for big and small things.
Sure.
I don't think I remember you really bringing them up a week later, a
sure,
month later, a year later.
I'll give you an example, I guess, maybe another one that I think it would be. Me and my partner put an offer in a house. Now, tomorrow's when we're supposed to hear what kind of the next steps are. If it doesn't work out for whatever, I think I would dwell on it for about 10 minutes, half an hour, and then I'd move up. That's it. I'd be like, cool, all right, moving on.
Yeah.
I think it might be the default action in me, in the sense that, okay, there is no next action here. That's where it ends. All right, well, move on. I think
so kind of like a practicality.
In a similar example, like even in the gym sense, if I had someone had taken a machine, I think I'd dwell on it for a few seconds and then go, okay, move on. Okay, here's a clear example, actually. Yesterday in my workout very early in the morning, I got there at 6:20-ish, and I started doing my workout.
That's not that early. Come on, Juan.
Week.
4:30 on
However,
offer.
between 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., there's a particular class that happens at that gym where they take up a lot of the space. And I noted that from my time, I went, oh, damn, I'm going to get started on my 42 EMOM every minute on the minute workout that I need these machines and stuff at about the time that they're going to be starting, and so I can't use it.
Did you say a 42-minute EMOM?
44-minute EMOM. Not 42, fuck that. 44-minute EMOM.
So
That's
44
right,
minutes
non-stop of working out. That's right. That is right. Yeah.
Okay.
14. It was going to be a 14-calorie row. Second minute was going to be 5 squat cleans with 50 kilos. Third minute was going to be 14 calorie ski erg. Fifth one was going to be strict handstand push-ups. And you repeat that for 44 fucking minutes. That's how you do it, motherfuckers. So it's going to be part of the workout. And so I was finished doing the deadlifts, and I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do this. I dwelled on it for about, honestly, I would say 3 seconds. It was like, looked at my phone. I went, cool, I can do biceps, I can do this move, I can do this move, I can do it. That's it. Off I went. Did it, changed it up. I made a little note on my little expel pressure to say, changed it up. I haven't actually done it yet, but that's something I'll go back tonight and go, okay, cool, change it. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay in that manner. Again, it's that view of something like courage. It's not that it's the absence of fear that is in place. So there's definitely not the absence of dwelling. It's that it's very minimal in its hold of me. So I would for sure say, yeah, that's probably something that I find quite easy, and maybe others wouldn't. An example for current, I think the clear one is solitude. Mm-hmm. This is the serious one. I won't say the joking one. But there's definitely I think this is true because it is hard for most individuals to find solitude in a few things. Solitude in technology, with devices, with humans, with interactions, with sometimes feeling angst of being on your own or doing your own thing. But even beyond that, I think for most individuals, it's the solitude of a pursuit of something that doesn't generally match up with the socially accepted thing. I think most people would find that a bit of a challenge. So in here goes approaching or trying to take your own path in life, whether that's a work-wise or a training thing or anything else, especially when it bucks the norm, where, at least from an appearance sense, it seems to me that you're quite, not in the word of comfort, but you seem to have it pretty easy for you to find that solitude. So, you've done this with, retreats where you kind of took away from technology and you did a lot of reading and, not really speaking. And I remember talking to you about this and I was like, dude, that would be so hard for me. Like, holy crap, like there's no way I could do that. Whereas for you, it almost didn't seem like a challenge enough. It was that's fine. That's kind of enjoyable.
It was too easy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say enjoyable. That 6-day one that I did, I wouldn't call that enjoyable per se, but it wasn't hard.
Yeah, so I think maybe the strong power that you have, or the strong view that you can have that probably a lot of other people would find challenging, is to be able to find solitude quite easily in a lot of things. Now, that doesn't apply always, because I know you can get into your own mind, and so maybe I'm not saying solitude of the mind, but definitely solitude in the view of being able to now go travel to places. So, there was a time when you didn't want to do that, like travel on your own. But, you've had a conversation where like, you might travel somewhere in the world and you're quite calm in being able to just take a one-way trip, figure out as you're going through, go on your own. I think a lot of people would find that a challenge. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know whether that's something that is learnt by you. I think it's something that's almost innate to you. Man. Yeah.
So I've been like that since forever. Since forever, pretty much.
So I think that probably would be a strong point that I'd say.
My favourite times playing hide and seek was just
when I wasn't found. I love this hide and seek game where I haven't seen my family in 2 years and stuff. I've just been living out in the streets. Hey, that's been fucking good. Raised by the wolves.
Yeah. Oh man, jeez. All right, another question then. What do you know more about than anybody else? So if you had to give a TED talk on something, so 10, 15 minutes, what would that talk be on? See, this one was actually harder for me because I think, kind of like you were implying before, I don't have that one thing which I specialize in. It's kind of too general, too broad. Probably, I would say value for value. I think probably only Adam Curry, Gigi, and maybe one or two other people understand that better than me. But that's such a niche thing. Maybe it'll be more popular in 5 years' time. Who knows? I'm kind of counting on it. But that is probably one. And maybe the intentional deliberate way to not overthink things, to kind of stop yourself from doing that. I think that's another that I would feel comfortable talking about for 10-15 minutes and go, yeah, probably not too many other people have. Kind of like the solitude, actually. It's kind of linked to that, yeah.
Well, that's where I was going to go towards is it would only be two things. One would be, something that just comes naturally, which would often for me be the default action sort of conversations. I think that not default assertiveness, but default action state, I think I would be able to just probably talk a lot about it, and that's both in personal examples and then other examples. Maybe something quite adjacent to it. Actually, something that I've been finding interesting is now in my day-to-day sort of work life, it's impressively enough, I think, to me, how often now I'm making some calls where it almost feels like I'm predicting the future. Where I'm seeing what is going to happen in the next week. And there's just a little examples like, hey, I've just heard of this meeting. I can put together what just got read out over there. You need to put an email and say these sort of things to this person because that's going to get asked in a week's time. And sure enough, it happens. And it just keeps happening. So maybe something around those connections more so towards managing teams or delivery of work. And maybe the third one, which again comes easily to me, will be something to do with training. So I wouldn't be able to give a TED talk on very, very specific things about training or nutrition. That's probably not where my strength lies because there's people out there, Andy Galpin,
so
like
you're
all these people
talking
who are like
about the actual physical training or the mental process
no,
of training?
I would say somehow, I don't know how I would describe this particular tech talk, but it would have to be the broadness of health and fitness and training, almost to the point of there's a lot of real specialty in viewing of, do you want to maximize hypertrophy? Do you want to maximize health suspension? Do you want to maximize for running? I think that my particular tech talk would be more on the possibilities of fitness and the various streams and paths that you would have to go down. So, maybe start talking as an example. And I know there was a podcast about this by, escapes me. It'll be one of the popular ones, so I wanted to give them kind of kudos, but they had this conversation of, it was Andy Galpin actually, with someone. If they had a conversation of, hey, if you're a bodybuilder, this is what you kind of do. If you're a runner, this is what you kind of do. Hey, if you're a powerlifter, this is how you do. And then this is how you would train, and this sort of things that you would eat. Mm-hmm. They had this really big conversation. Now, it was broad, but it was a pretty big conversation. And honestly, I would have said that 3 things were new to me. Everything else, I was like, yeah, I knew that. That's how I would approach it. Obviously. But I go, cool, that's probably because I know enough bodybuilders, power builders, strongmen, crossfitters, runners, whatever, to know enough of it. Huh? So yeah. I think it's the multiple views of modalities and kind of the generality of where you would be looking at, even to the sequential, right? If you were doing bodybuilding, how you might sequence a training splits. If you were doing powerlifting, how you would sequence in what reps ranges, what sort of eating would you do, what you wouldn't maximize, what you would maximize. So I think that would probably be the key thing I would talk about, the TED Talks. Although those are hard because it almost helps you retrospect back on some of the learnings you've had and introspect and go, do you really know something so deeply that you can be like the world-renowned person at that? Maybe there isn't.
I mean, there's TEDx talks, there's TED Talks which only have 15 people in the audience, TED Talk Brisbane or something. So maybe you can, maybe it's we're thinking of the big stage here. But
it's also I think I'm comfortable in fully knowing, and again, this goes to thoughts I've had around services we could provide as mere mortals, and it could be through fitness or other means. And I don't know that I could hand on my heart say that we would be the very best at a particular thing. So these are hypotheticals. Let's say we start hey, we'll help you get to be a handstander, or to do bodybuilding, or a fitness plan, or a training plan, or insert whatever. We're not going to be the best at it. That's not going to happen. Both me and Karen, nor anyone who we hire or anything, aren't going to be wanting to go down to that level of expertise, the PhD level, beyond mastercraft. We're not going to be there. That's not us. What I have, and you said it out loud, that I've done quite a few different things. I think the strength in us as mere mortals is that we do try a lot. We do kind of sample a lot of life. We do have our particular pieces that we really enjoy and we'll probably double down and do a lot more of. But one of the things that we do know is to see things very broadly. I think that's again, we're not going to be the masters at our craft at this thing either, in terms of the very best. But shit, I would find it quite difficult to know other individuals, either in conversation from a podcast or in other places, where we can kind of connect the dots in a lot of different places, very, 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 like in a variety of places. That is hard. That is difficult because you have to move away from being an expert at something. You kind of have to just be a tools of the trade of a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I would have actually said maybe one of the things I find easier than most would be grinding. And typically this is applied to video games. You know, you're grinding away at a game, or maybe even that word is now in the hustle kind of culture. Yeah, get your grind on, that sort of thing. When I think of myself and trying lots of things, I don't envision it as I think maybe entrepreneurs would, which is, you know, innovate rapidly, test out 17 different things at the same time, find the one of those that works well and follow it. We've talked many times about the clips. The clips are starting to do well, and I'm already thinking, I don't know if I want that. You know, I'm not. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm trying different things to find what I'm good at and then follow or get that immediate success and follow that. No, I'm much more. I want to learn how to program. I'm going to try grinding away at these simple tasks for 30 hours, and if I enjoy it, I'll do it. Now for programming, I didn't. For language learning, hell yeah, man. I will grind away learning the top 500 verbs, and I've got a book of German full of that, and Spanish. And I mean, just that, the one book I created, you referenced right at the start, was when I was reading Cien Años de Soledad, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude. There are so many obscure words in that, and I writ them all out. I got them all. How much of them do I use in everyday speech? Almost none. But the whole process of learning it was very beneficial for me. And I think that grinding is actually something I'm kind of okay at. I'm fine just doing handstands for 3 hours in the gym, even when I'm with my friends and they're playing around doing kind of movement, locomotion. There's a thing called a macaco, which is basically a kind of backflip onto one hand sort of deal, like, okay. and then you land on your feet, obviously not holding a one-arm handstand, maybe one day. And I don't need to try it. I'm kind of like, would I rather do my normal sets of minute-long handstand positions and cycling through them, or play around with them? No, I'm gonna stick to my thing. So yeah, that's probably another one that I also say, but not give people the impression that we're trying all these different things and we're innovating rapidly and experimental. I don't see either of us really being like that.
Yeah,
maybe you,
not particularly.
more so than me.
But in saying that too, you know, from the perspective of, you know, being able to grind it out, that also has to be on something that you enjoy, because there's definitely, I can tell you right now that. Are you saying the same thing for, okay, cool, I'll grind out making clips for the next 25 years? No, that's not going to happen. But it's kind of the equivalent for me of, you know, for me, waking up early in the mornings, you know, 4 a.m., 3:30 a.m., 5:30 a.m., whatever, right? That to me doesn't seem like an issue. That's so cemented in my life now that it's not even worth a consideration or talking about it as something like important or of any use. But, you know, how often do I talk to people about this and, you know, I'll go to work or do something else and be today my baby woke up at 3:30, so I just woke up at 3:30 and that's it. That's just where the day goes. And so now my day is 3 hours longer or whatever. Right. I'm fine to do that 100 years. Like, that wouldn't even bat an eye. I'd be like, okay, cool, that's just reality. But I'm sure there's some things, man, where I'd be like, there's no way I've got that grit for, you know, I don't know, something boring. Let's say going and meditating. You know, an hour, I'd be like, damn, that's some grind that I'm not willing to do. It's just also things you either find enjoyable or you just cement in your life just being a little bit easier. Who knows?
Yeah, at least that initial period of getting into it. And then if it's something you really enjoy, I mean, man, there's plenty of handstand moves and things I don't enjoy, but I still just do and do and do and do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you got anything else?
Yeah, I've got two more. Mm-hmm. So this one is actually a combination of your two favorite things, Juan.
Here we go.
Gym and Chiron. Of course, a classic. I want you to rate me on my gym etiquette. I think this has been something we've been dancing around for a fair while.
Gym etiquette.
And I've got a couple examples here. I won't give explanations of them. I'll just tell you what I do. And then you can give me maybe an overall score of what you think. And I've kind of got an easy version and a hard version of things. And,
Here we go.
And this is all stuff I've done in the last month. So
Right.
bring my gym bag on the floor, talking to people who have their earphones in, switching my shirt in the gym, putting my feet on walls and mirrors, walking around with socks in the gym, just handstanding in general, planching in the squat rack. And then the harder versions of that is creating a huge radius around me, which I kind of don't want people to enter. So kind of forming a little box off gym area, playing my boombox it's technically in the gym, being shirtless in a room or for a video and recording, using the welcome mat as a base so that I can put my blocks on, walking barefoot in the gym, putting my legs up on a railing and twerking, and then using a box to sit on for my entire session. What in the terms of gym etiquette, how bad are a lot of those things?
Once upon a time, I think I would have said, so I'm thinking 5 years ago, I would have said for a lot of that, like, oh man, that's terrible. That's
You're a bad
terrible.
person.
That's bad person. This is a bad gym etiquette. You shouldn't be doing this. Shouldn't be doing that. Now, though, I think I see it differently. And I think I see it differently because some of those examples, you would get kicked out of the gym that I'm in. I'm not, the gym that you currently go to, they kind of say, hey, you shouldn't do this.
Well, yeah, for some of them it says,
don't do this. And they might tell you.
It has a sign on the wall saying,
don't
keep
do
your shoes
this.
on.
And people have come over to you and said, hey, don't do that.
Every now and then.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one gym that I go to at the moment that they would kick you out, cancel your membership, tell you to fuck off. I know that for a certainty because I know the owner of the gym.
Okay.
He would do that. And so but in those particular gyms as well, you're allowed to pose without a shirt. So there are things where you...
well, so what would they have kicked me out
They
for
would have
then?
kicked you out for no shoes.
Okay.
They would have kicked you out for leaning against walls in incorrect places, or mirrors for sure. Mm-hmm. But they wouldn't have kicked you out for the no shirt wearing. So
there you go.
That's a bit strange. Other gyms, hell, everything you mentioned there wouldn't have been a problem. That's fine. No shoes, fine. No shirt, fine. It's all good. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Correct, yeah.
So it does definitely depend on the gym. If we're talking Globo gyms, okay, bad gym etiquette.
So
if we're talking
commercial gyms in this case.
Yeah, Globo gyms, fine. If we're talking more specialized gyms, I can kind of see getting away with some of them. So once upon a time, I would say bad etiquette. Now I'd say bad etiquette sometimes. Where you go, bad etiquette.
Yeah.
In some other places, totally fine. In fact, expected. So yeah, maybe take that as an average of like, okay, it's not as bad as I actually think it is.
Correct. So when I asked my brother about this, who is 6 years younger than us, he was saying, that's so bad. You can't do any of that. You shouldn't be. You're a bad person.
No, well, so now to give you an example, people would have seen me train, kind of my thoughts, and you might say like, oh, well, Juan's got better gym etiquette. But if I give you an example of one of my training sessions from last week, I was running on a treadmill with no towels, like sweating everywhere. I was basically spitting out of my mouth because it was like just such a hardcore intense session. I had no shoes for one part of it, no socks for another part of it. I was doing handstands against things, no shirt, laying on the floor, right? Like, okay.
Yeah.
That's probably akin to like getting kicked out of some of these gyms. So, and I'm like, cool, I'm totally fine. But it's obviously dependent on the places that I'm going to. Approaching people and talking to them when they're doing the fucking workout and that I'm not even part of, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it very much depends on the location.
Yeah, and so for all of these, there's context for this. When I was walking around, it was because I kind of needed to have my socks off for, I think I needed kind of the friction on the floor for whatever I was doing. And when I have the boombox on, it's not inside the gym, it's in the outdoor area. And in most cases, everyone has their earphones on, and I'm not playing it absurdly loudly, just kind of enough for me in my 3-meter radius. So, yeah, all of these things. It was kind of funny. I was going through all of this, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? A couple of years ago, 5-10 years ago, I probably would have said, oh yeah, that's bad. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be sequestering a box for yourself to sit on.
Look, I'll simplify with this. I'll say my view of it now is that a lot of that should be okay, if you're at the right gym, which then ultimately leads me to say, I enjoy a culture of a gym that allows that, and so that's where I get attracted to a few of those gyms. If you're trying to do that sort of training and culture in gyms that don't accept it, well, that's your fault. Like that's
exactly.
on you.
And in the Fortitude Valley Good Life, for example, I got told off for having my shoes off the other day. I haven't been back there for 2 weeks, and I'm probably not going to go back there, to be honest, because I just don't want to deal with that. So, yeah, it's not like I've been told these things and I repeatedly do them. I'm kind of just getting away with all of this for the moment.
I've been at that gym without shoes as well, actually, and didn't get told off. So it kind of depends.
I've also been in there and not been told off.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's just one of those times where it's like, oh, okay, well, is this just a person getting at me or whatnot? The last one I wanted to bring up was Bitcoin ETFs. You've probably been following this a bit more than me. Mm-hmm. I want to know what's the deal, Juan? What's interesting? What's not interesting?
Well, I'll hold tongue because I'm gonna have a follow-up conversation with Jeff, and that was one of 2 points that he very much wants to have a bit of a conversation about on the podcast. So, look, preempting. Go listen to that particular podcast that I'm going to have with Jeff. I think it's going to be super interesting.
So that'll probably be in the next month or two.
Next month, yeah. Oh, well, I'll have a probably conversation early July. When it comes out, that'll probably be late July. Cool. So be on the watch for that. More specifically, though, I think it's the...
So that's Jeff Yew, ex-CEO of Binance Australia.
Correct. So I think the interesting
current owner of Monochrome.
Yeah. So I think what's interesting about it is more so the regulations at play around it. So, there is regulations in Australia around that, and obviously... Monochrome is, as much as Jeff knows, is the only regulated place where you can purchase Bitcoin and hold it in an ETF. Everything else is
in Australia
really regulated. And obviously we're seeing this now across the world in terms of BlackRock and a few other places putting in for those Bitcoin ETFs. As of right now, you've also been seeing a lot of money shooting up in terms of Bitcoin, so a lot of Bitcoin actually going up at a percentage basis. Look, what can I say in terms of details and whatnot? We're not the people to ask around it. It's interesting.
More for me is the question is you follow general finance news in Australia, from what I can tell. Mm-hmm. What is there a change in mentality of, oh wow, this is actually becoming a bit more mainstream? Is it still are people looking at that sort of thing in shock and horror? Oh my god, they've just killed their business.
Well, no, I'll caveat this with the fact that, one, yes, I am very interested and follow along on a lot of different finances, both Australian and global, etc. But I don't communicate with a lot of people.
Okay.
In it, so
the general trend.
But it is the case. Even the general trend, you're not even hearing this in some of the normal media. Like you're not. You're seeing some of it. Like you're seeing Fink says this about Bitcoin or whatever. That's it. Where I'm really getting probably a lot of my information is from podcasts and people like Jeff posting it out elsewhere. Which again, Jeff is private, so you can't even see the stuff that he's posting about it anyways. So I'm getting some sources of it, but I'm not. I don't know what the trend of the mentality is of people. At best, I'm seeing some on some Reddit conversations, but not really. Everyone's, as much as I've seen, no one's really been talking much about it. And if at all, it's more Bitcoin's going up. The cost of this, what's happening to this NFT? That's all I'm seeing. Not anything very big about ETFs or what's going to come. Nor have I read much articles. So that's why I've been seeing some of the information, but I've been preparing and expecting some questions for me to ask Jeff in terms of, I want to get his perspective on the matter. What did I see? I think I've talked to you about how, this was something that him and a couple of other people that thought, oh yeah, that's going to happen many, many years ago. Now it's happening. Okay, is this was that inevitable? I'm not sure. Is it something that now we can see what's going to happen in the next 5 years? I don't know. So, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what the general feeling of.
Okay.
To be frank, I think if you asked, 1,000 people in Australia,
just all the random people who have walked past us today, probably been 300, 400.
Yeah, I'd say not a single one would know about it. Not a single one would have heard about Bitcoin ETF. I would say that the predominant nature when it comes to finance is still around inflation. It's around cost of living. It's around interest rates going up. That's your big talking points. Bitcoin ETF, they might as well be fucking Chinese.
Yeah, and to be fair, I would say 80% of them wouldn't know what an ETF is either. So it's not necessarily the Bitcoin aspect. That's the
it's like you've got a couple of pieces here. I've even had conversations about this with close people, trying to explain to them ETFs and just I'm not talking Bitcoin. I'm talking general my
brother's
Vanguard or something like that, and going oh, what is this? What does that mean?
My brother's been trying to do that. And,
right, so there's some
having
of that
issues.
aspect as well. So.
Yeah, well, just to give a slide downer, I guess, to Bitcoin and using it. So this is real interpersonal use.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been collecting some Satoshis, so portions of Bitcoin in the recent period, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to use some of this. So we promoted one of the episodes on Fountain, the one I did recently of the value for value, Bitcoin and podcasting 2.0. So what I had to do for that was I couldn't actually use the Satoshis. Oscar has said, yeah, in the future we'll do that. He said that a fair few months ago. I get it. He's got other priorities. He's busy. So it's one of those ones where I'd really like it to happen, but I couldn't. So whatever. I'll just use my debit card. Some fiat is gone. Good.
Good.
But then I went, okay, well, it would be kind of nice if I could get that fiat back and use the Satoshis. And I went, oh shit, I have no idea how I can go back the opposite way. How can I get from Lightning, Bitcoin that's on Lightning, to AUD in my bank account?
Right.
And I thought about it for 5-10 minutes. I went, I actually don't know how to do this. Just I would have to go research it. There's a thing called RoboSats I'm planning on trying, but that I know I have to go into a GitHub somewhere.
Wait, what are you talking about? You're talking about cashing out from a Lightning address?
Correct. Yeah,
right.
Getting from Lightning Bitcoin that's on the Lightning network to Australian dollars. I don't really know how to do that.
Okay.
And yeah, I just went, okay, it still kind of is one way at the moment. If you're converting, I've got the Strike app that's now in Australia. Not helpful for what I want to do here.
So you're not talking about sending from a Lightning wallet to another wallet that takes Lightning and we can.
I don't know.
That to Bitcoin.
I don't mind how I get it. I don't even know how I would do that.
Right. Okay.
There's no service that I know of that goes from Lightning Bitcoin to AUD. And so what I would probably have to do is get it onto the normal Bitcoin network, like the layer 1, send it to an exchange.
That's correct.
And then in the exchange do that.
I think that's how you have
so
to
that's
do it.
probably 3 or 4 steps there.
Right, you're asking direct.
Well, I just in general.
Gotcha.
And so, yes, that's one way of doing it, and that's 3 or 4 steps. It'd be nicer if it was 2 steps or even 1 step.
Gotcha.
And I just went, yeah, this is still kind of one way.
Yep.
Yeah, you gotta, if you're going this way, if you're investing in Bitcoin, don't be surprised if it takes extra steps to do what you want.
Well, absolutely, and I think I'll read this out because the 2 points, again, that I want to talk about with Jeff, which he wants to actually talk about, is around does crypto regulation exist or not in Australia, because many people in the news think that there isn't. But the other one is the future of crypto when regulated TradFi players enter the scene, and will it make crypto exchanges or DeFi irrelevant? So there's going to be some part in, because some of the way that Monochrome does as well is, well, obviously it's not using Lightning, but it does enable you to get things back and forth through fiat. I wonder if, here's a call out for me, Immortalized, or someone else out there to know, can you very quickly translate from, Lightning Satoshis to AUD or another fiat way currency?
Well, the Bitcoin meetup guys said RoboSats. I had a quick look, and I believe I need to download the GitHub, do some software. So it's extra steps.
Yeah.
It's not
direct.
Well, it's not
like
I
you can just very easily go do
here's
that.
an address, send it in here. Here's my bank account details.
Yep.
Do the conversion. No, it's more complex than that.
Sure.
But that, that's to be expected. It's not Bitcoin's going to fail because I can't do this one thing. It's just it was just a little reminder for me. Okay, the unbridled enthusiasm which we sometimes have here for this new technology. It's you gotta. There's work that needs to be done as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's it, man.
I think that's it. That's everything from me. Thank you very much, Me Immortalized, for joining us today in the podcast. Once again, we're talking about Satoshi and Bitcoin. Then the way that we ask for your support here as a value for value partner podcast. Can we call it that? Is that a thing?
Sure.
Who knows? But you can send through some boostergrams. That's a message directly to us using some Satoshis attached to it, or you can stream through some Satoshis as well when you're listening through. You can do that with any of the new podcasting apps out there, newpodcast.com. That includes things like Fountain,
Podverse.
What's some other new ones?
New ones to do it on would be Podcast Guru. That's that's an old app, but it's new with its features. And there's, at the moment, all the kind of cool stuff is kind of at the desktop level.
Okay.
To be honest, that's where some really cool things are going on. And this is more related to live streaming in particular.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where the momentum is. The additional things easy to access on your mobile. That's it's not been delayed or anything. It's just the momentum's elsewhere at the moment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Once again, though, if you're not there, and we appreciate that it is difficult, you can also support us through sharing the channel, sharing the podcast,
For sure.
sharing the individual conversations that we're having, some of the clips we're making,
Leaving us negative
comments. As long as they're constructive, it's always appreciated. We're going to leave it there. Me Immortalites. Hope you have enjoyed this meandering session out in the wild. Me Immortalites. Juan out.
Karen out.
Good.
Boy. Yeah.